I feel a lot of people keep these two things very separate, which is they go on their journey of doing very personal images, which you do not see a reflection of that in commercial work at all. I most of the time try and not do that.
Right.
I try and make sure that they don't look different. So if you see my fine art work, is not different from what I probably would have done on a lot of commercial projects as well.
Right.
I mean, if your goal is not clear, money and finance and commerce and everything follows. I don't really think you can actually plan for it. A very fundamental question. Why did I become a photographer? It's because I couldn't paint. You see, I tried my hand at painting and sketching, but I couldn't. I was not good at it. Now, to express myself as a creative person, my objective was to create images.
What is the level of tools that are available out there today and in the hands of someone like you? Can a good picture become a great picture?
I've not taken a picture till the time I'm sure what I'm getting into. Okay. It has never been an accident. I don't like accidents. So I know for a fact that this is the amount of post I'm going to do on it to arrive at what my vision to the image is.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Expert Talk with Bhavya Desai. In today's conversation, I'm speaking to ace photographer Jatin Kampani, who's been a very, very old friend of mine, about what it takes to actually create an image today. Because he's been one of those photographers who's successfully been able to amalgamate or create a marriage of shooting an image and also conceptualizing and creating an image. So we're riveting conversation because we delve into AI, we delve into post-processing, we delve into editing, we delve into where the reality of AI in terms of photography is today, both internationally and also in India. And we try to answer the most important question, which is AI going to make photography redundant? So, interesting watch. If you like our work, then please, of course, subscribe to our channel, put the bell notifications on. Audio podcasts come here. You can always listen to those as well if you're driving. But please wear your seatbelt as well when you do this. And see you in the next one. So, hi, Jatin, and welcome to Expert Talk with Bhavya Desai. How are you?
Thank you, Bhavya. Thank you for having me over. I think we go back a long way, as you know.
Yes, absolutely.
You guys have been platforms for people like us in the past. So thank you again for this talk. And I don't know whether I call it expert talk because I see myself as a student still.
That's modesty, yeah. Which is good. The reason is because I know, and as you said it rightly, that because we know each other in such a long time and we've done so many things together, I know that there is also a fear of us having a conversation and that conversation snowballing into a lot of different tangents, which is good in a way. But today I actually have come with a very clear agenda that we need to have some structure in terms of what we are going to focus on so that the viewers can benefit out of all the experience that obviously you have. So in terms of narrative, I was actually thinking that we'll talk a lot about post-processing, we'll talk about AI, of course, the buzzword, and where what's happening in that sphere, in that genre specifically. And then I kind of wanted to go vertical down from there so that anybody who actually watches this can get a serious insight into what it really takes to do what you do. Yeah. Having said that, the first thought in my head is that, we featured you in the December issue of the magazine. It just looks brilliant.
Lucky me. Yeah.
And watching some of those pictures, the first thought that came into my mind, and I was telling the team as well, that a lot of the work that I see you do and others do in the similar space, there's a stark difference, big difference in the images that are being shot. So I wanted to show some images that you've done, and I want to kind of get an idea if they are driven with a lot of post-processing or not. Or otherwise. Yeah. So this is the first one for everyone. It's already on your screen for you all to see, the viewers. This is the cover that we've used, this picture.
Sure.
Yeah. So we kind of had an internal conversation between us when we were putting up this cover, and even when we were watching the images, we thought that this is a heavily post-processed image.
Okay.
True or not?
So not at all, actually. I mean, I think other than probably adding a hint of a glow in the background. We've done nothing to this picture. This is one take. There is absolutely no post-production in this at all, contrary to what people might see and believe.
Right.
But that is the whole point. You know, I mean, I'll give you a little bit of background before I come to this picture.
Yeah.
I'll give you a little bit of background about my work, since you said that, you know, my body of work looks slightly different from the genre of this kind of work in fashion that people do. I've been practicing photography for, as you know, more than 25, 30 years now. And I've always stuck to one thing, which is that I want to do a lot of conceptual work. You know, I want to do images which basically are thought-provoking to people. One should see the image and feel provoked enough to say, how is this done? I mean, for me, what has been most important is that whether I have actually stimulated the mind of a person when, whether it's a simple portrait, whether it's magnanimous sets that I've worked on, or whether I've post-produced any of these images to create that sort of surrealism in my images.
Right.
I think my work has been strongly conceptual, you know. So even if it's a very simple product shot that I'm doing, or whether it's a fashion shoot that I'm doing, I try and create that element of surrealism in it.
Okay.
You know, I think that's my space, that's my comfort zone. I like that element. So
Right.
as you rightly pointed out, what you would have imagined being a post-processed image is actually not. And
Right.
there are a lot of images which you would see and say, oh, it's so beautiful and natural, has gone through serious amount of post-processing.
Right.
So it's not about the end result, it's about how one has gone about creating that image and,
Right.
you know, what has led one to believe what they believe and see.
Right.
So that's something that excites me most. I mean, before I can please anybody else. I mean, I get very excited with the journey of creating that image.
Yeah.
And for every creative person, as you know, it's like we're slightly selfish when it comes to pleasing our own selves first.
Understand.
When it comes to work, especially, you know. And if I have created that wow in that factor, I really don't need a mass of people to come and say, oh, we love what you do and stuff. I need that niche who understands what we do, you know, and I've stuck to that. So coming to this image, actually, that you were what you were saying is, I think we shot this for Pernia's pop-up. They came and approached me with a campaign idea saying that we need to do the summer line. And what is it that will look interesting? We are a multi-brand store. We have all the designers of the country that we sell outfits of, and we have a summer line that we need to actually put out there. And what can you suggest us? So this is where my excitement begins. And I said, why don't we create images where you know, we see a lot of color, because I think summer one would like to see sunlight and color and the blues and the pinks, because I mean, that's the general vibe, you know. Winter's gray, winter's, you know. So I've taken all the natural elements, so to say, relevant to that particular time that we are actually shooting. The clothes are so you know, vibrant, and they're so beautiful and colorful that you want something really nice going around. Now if I want to add color and take out grim, which basically is your winter and cold and stuff, I mean, I think if I want color, the blue skies give me the color though. Water is an essential element. I mean, you want to hydrate yourself in summers, and water is an element that I really want to add in the picture. So how do I do that? Now, summer clothing, water, the conventional thoughts are beaches, go and shoot the campaign on a beach, and obviously it's going to look nice, but it's sort of a space which has already been done by a lot of people. So we said that we'll create our outdoors indoors, you know. So we thought of this really beautiful set. We painted blue skies. We got some really nice artists to paint blue skies, massive canvases. We got an entire 20 feet by 30 feet water tank, put in food colors in it, watercolors in it, made it look pink, made the girl stand on ice blocks, rather water blocks, which are transparent. So when she stands on it, it looks like she's actually standing on water. We had those water lilies, which are artificial, sprouting around her. And we shot that picture, and other than the glow, as you rightly see, there was no need to do any post-processing there.
Understand.
So you see, it's right from inception to execution. I feel once you have a very clear idea on what image you want to arrive at, you know, your journey becomes easier. Then you sort of have whatever hurdles you have in the way. Sometimes production cost, sometimes you know, time as an essence. If time becomes a problem, you try and fix that issue on post, how you do it. I mean, there are multiple ways to basically arrive at that image that you really want to. But I mean, I think as far as you clearly know what you want.
Got you.
So, as I said, this image is basically, but I want people to believe that it may have been completely created on Photoshop.
Yeah, it looks like that for sure, because especially with the sort of mood that it has created.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting what you say, because that's also one thing that I actually wanted to talk about. See, I think anybody who's going to watch this knows who Jatin Kampani is.
Hopefully,
you know? I'm pretty confident they will. So I think very clearly the sort of work that you do in terms of the style or whatever you are looking at is something great. And I know that for a fact, because if you would not be, you wouldn't be there for 25 years.
Sure.
You know, there's no denying that fact. What I actually wanted to understand and focus on was where the time and the journey is moving towards now. The reason is because I feel that, as you said, a lot of things that you are actually doing, conceptualizing, whether it's using post-processing, whatever it might be, I think that's something which probably moving forward is going to be, I don't know, maybe a norm, maybe not. But there's definitely going to be some sort of amalgamation between the two, you know, which is why, do you think then today, in today's day and age, like, how you are saying that you conceptualize an image and that's what brings you that fun and that's what gives you that enthusiasm. Do you think that as a photographer or as a business per se by itself in photography is a lucrative business to be in as compared to being a photographer?
If I've understood your question right, I mean, I think there are two aspects to explaining what probably you're looking at. And I'm sure you're asking this from absolutely a viewer's point of view in terms of what they'd like to know. So I'd split this question actually into two. I would say, let's leave aside what is lucrative or not. I will explain a journey of a photographer per se. I mean, we are in the quest of image making. We want to leave a legacy of images behind. We want people to actually say, this is the kind of work that happened in this era. This is our primary objective. Commerce is a very small part of what we do. You know, there's a whole plethora of some really amazing work that photographers do otherwise, which maybe sometimes see the light of day, sometimes they don't. You know, it's all about whether photographers have managed to reach out there with their personal works and stuff or not. So if you're asking about the journey of a creative person in terms of what they do with it, I personally have managed to sort of blur that line a lot, because I've somehow been lucky as well as managed to get some people who put in a lot of trust in my style of work where I don't have to differentiate both. So I have ideas and I reach out to people, you know, and when I reach out or when a client comes to me seeing something that I've already done and I said, this is done, and I propose something absolutely new to them, you know, and that's where, you know, I feel my mojo lies. You know, I feel that I've done something for this brand. And at the same time, I have my creative satisfaction of producing images that I really want to produce, which is why my body of work has, you know, that sort of variety in the kind of work that there is, where you see unseen images, you know, because I've blurred that sort of a line. Lucrative or not is about how you've approached it. You know, I feel a lot of people keep these two things very separate, which is they go on their journey of doing very personal images, which you do not see a reflection of that in commercial work at all. You know, so when you see their exhibition works, it's got nothing to do with what they do commercially. You know, and when you see their commercial work, you know, there is no fine art in them. It's purely commercial because they've met somebody else's brief. I most of the time try and not do that. I try and make sure that they don't look different. So if you see my fine art work, is not different from what I probably would have done on a lot of commercial projects as well. So, and I feel that's probably worked for me, you know, and that's what I'm most happy doing. So my choice of projects have also been like that over the past 25 years. So I may not be necessarily as busy as a lot of photographers. That's because I don't enjoy that at this process, because all my research work that I do, you know, to create and come up with visuals which are path-breaking, I lose out time on that, or the kind of personal work that I end up doing. So, if I've split your question into that, I don't really see combining. If people want to get a gist of, if this is a way that you need to go ahead about, well, I mean, try your own. It
Right.
depends on your personal style, what you really want to do out there.
Yeah.
What is it? I am very happy to be recognized as this kind of work that I really do.
Right.
You know,
No, I'm trying to understand from a perspective of someone, say, for example, who's getting into photography today, right? Of course. So if that person, if, say, for example, at this point of time in their journey, they are 50-50 divided between the two. Whether should I pursue like photography as a photographer to make it a career into commercial photography, vis-a-vis if I'm also good at what you call post-processing techniques, whatever, using tools, XYZ and all of those things. So I'm saying which between the two is the path that probably might be more, and let's say for the purpose of whatever, making it a career. See, because I understand creative satisfaction is something which is great, and it also comes after a specific level, because when you've kind of made your own name out there, so you can afford that luxury of like doing things which you like.
I beg to differ there actually, Bhavya, and honestly so, because even when I started my career, I don't really think I had the resources, to basically just enjoy just doing the kind of work that I want to do. But I stuck to it
Right.
because I never saw myself as being where I am today, maybe 30 years back. In that sense, I work towards only creating beautiful images. And things start falling in place, I feel. If it is a choice that I had done at that time for the kind of work that I had said no to in those days, I would have probably be a little more richer today, but that was not what my objective was.
Right.
So if it is from an advice point of view that you're asking me what I should tell people, I think they should very strictly pursue what they're really out there. I mean, if your goal is not clear, I think, money and finance and commerce and everything follows. I don't really think you can actually plan for it. You can go out there and pitch yourself to the best of the clients with the kind of work. There is no guarantee you're going to get it, because there are 100 other people, who are in queue pitching the same kind of work, want that kind of a job and probably want to do it cheaper.
Understand.
I don't really think that and that's where you start losing yourself.
Okay.
I feel that your very clear agenda is what kind of work you really want to do. I was very, very excited with doing a lot of commercial photography with my style at that point of time, and I pursued it. There have been probably multiple projects in a month that come to me which I don't end up doing, because at some point we've communicated, the clients have liked the idea, but at the same time there have been creative differences and we drop it. But with a smile on your face, going out there and saying that, listen, we can have coffee together, but I don't really think this is going to work for either you or me. I think if you really, really have the sense to do that, if you are strong enough and brave enough to say no to that, I think a lot of people are quite insecure that what if I lose this job?
Right. Right.
I think the moment you take that out, so answering your question is like, if you're not where you are, I don't think anybody is anywhere in this industry. I don't think you should actually see yourself as a businessman in the first place. At least that's what I believe in.
No, I'm not saying that in that respect. I'm just saying from a perspective that if somebody is starting out, then if I have two skills, one, I can shoot also well, and let's say well in both, and I can also use some of these tools really well. I can do post-processing. I can really understand those techniques really well. So if I'm 50-50 at it, then I need to pick a line, which is exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like
or
how
you can do both. You can do both.
You think that works as well?
Of course it does. I mean, I don't think they're separate in the first place.
Okay.
You can shoot. I mean, see, Bhavya, I come from analog time. I have my own darkroom, right? I still can make a print, process my own film.
Right.
I come from that era. I mean, the first picture I took was on a twin lens Rolleiflex.
Right.
So we've come along with basically mastering the art of Photoshop to a huge extent, where I conceptualize images based on what Photoshop tools are going to give me. I mean, none of the work that you see today in my body of work is possible without Photoshop as well. The enhancements, or to that extent, even using 3D and Maya for that extent. I mean, there are some images in my body of work where we've designed sets only on 3D. I've gotten guys who've basically worked on films like Matrix and all that to create my backdrops, on 3D, because that was what my vision was. I was too inspired by what was happening on 3D, and I've merged 3D, especially using Maya as a software, and shot models, and combined both on Photoshop, and use 3 platforms to create one image.
Right.
Eventually, your journey is to create that one image. How it comes to you is not important.
I understand.
And as far as there is a taker for what your vision is, I think you're pretty sorted. So as you said, they are not two different things. Whether you want to take a picture, shoot a picture, or post-process is a part of image making.
But do you think that fundamental mantra of what it was earlier about making a good image, like as you said, that you of course are from an analog time, and because let's say for the better part of it is that people who are obviously from that time, they understand photography, because photography was not easy in those days.
Sure.
You really had, like, if you had film, you only had 32 or 36 chances to shoot.
Sure.
You can't take, and of course it was expensive.
Yeah.
So you can't take a shot and then be like, okay, this does not work, let's take another one. Okay, let's take right?
Yeah.
But this now is not it's not the scenario now. The generation from today, I think there might still be 1 or 2% of that cloth who would probably invest time into still understanding analog, even from this generation. But it's very different now, the photography and per se how photography is.
Sure.
Do you think that mantra is still applicable even today?
I move on. And I've moved on every time. I don't really think what people... So there are... I know a lot of photographers who are very moved and very interested in sticking to analog, for that matter. They want to do that one film and one take, and they're very happy with saying that this is how it is being shot. Absolutely not a problem. It's archival. It's fantastic. If they are able to achieve that image through that medium, it's great. It's not the kind of images I want to do. It's as simple as that. I think it's just identifying one artist to the other, and I seriously see that as an art form. So I see photography as a beautiful art form. You see, the thing is that if you ask a very fundamental question, why did I become a photographer? It's because I couldn't paint. You see, I tried my hand at painting and sketching, but I couldn't, I was not good at it. Now, to express myself as a creative person, my objective was to create images, The camera came as a fantastic tool, and I started using that tool. Now, if I have to actually progress from there and start making better images, and if I see that there are tools available to do it, I will by all means do that. Which means that today, if I'm actually making images from my analog film to we used to do dodging and burning even for, if you considered, a primitive Photoshop. So to say, dodging and burning in darkrooms as well.
Considered as a sin at that time.
Not really. Everybody.
No, I mean like with the burning and dodging. Yeah.
Everybody did it. Jerry Ullsman, I feel, if you know his work, Jerry Ullsman was, I think Adobe Photoshop actually must have got inspired to create a tool like that, or a software like that, by his images, through his images, because he used to take 7 negatives and merge them into one picture, which is unbelievable for that time. Now, maybe he was actually limited by the technology available at that time, But if Jerry Ullsman today existed, do you think he would have gone and done it on an enlarger? I think he would have done it on Photoshop.
Way easier. Right?
So,
No, I completely understand and endorse the idea of course, you have to move with technology.
Sure.
So it really makes sense naturally. But then, let me actually, from a perspective of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, it's very interesting what you said in terms of like...
Who's to decide?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Who's to decide?
So where do you think that there is a blur line of things you can do and things you can't do? And again, I just wanted to talk about your genre, and then maybe we can actually like move to a different genre. But then from the genre of work that you do.
I've frankly not seen any roadblocks. I've not really had people who come and said this is acceptable or this is not. I think, if you see the end result of any image. Now, I speak purely about image making as a process, right? What is the purpose of it? Either it is going to hang as a fine art on somebody's walls. Now, they've probably bought it from a gallery because purely they see that this is what I really want for my. They're not asking you whether you shot it on 35, whether you shot it on Fuji Hasselblad or whatever camera. They've bought it because they love that piece of art. Now it's met its purpose. Nobody's asked that photographer what he shot and what his medium was. Versus in commercial photography, the client is purely interested in whether he's selling his product through that image or not. Right? Now, if it's a great image, if it's communicated the basic idea of what the product is all about, if the campaign is done really well, nobody is asking you what format, what is the right method of what. So, I mean, I don't understand when people would like to indulge in this conversation of what is acceptable and not. It's sort of a blurred question in any way. I mean, no offense, but I feel that, there is a lot of thing about art. I think people try to mix it up. Let's leave the art form to its own. I mean, when Rembrandt started painting with whatever his medium was, or whether Michelangelo did whatever his, I don't think there was ever questioned about, oh, but these are the colors that you should use because they'll last you 400 years. You obviously will invest in a artist knowing what his capability of understanding the subject is in the first place. You are investing in that person's sensibility, in his craft of making something the way he does, and you're investing in his vision of what he's going to create. I don't really think medium plays such an important role, at least in my 30 years of journey, is what I've seen.
But in today's day and age, I think it does somewhere, right? See, the reason I asked that question is because it just depends upon the applicability of where you're putting it. Now, in terms of commercial and fashion, because the subject and the genre is such that you can do a lot of those things. Now, you just pick that same tool, you put it into photojournalism.
Sure.
And it can completely change. And it can completely change the meaning, the context of what you're actually creating. I mean, if you can even say the word creating, the reason is because photojournalism is meant to be the way it is, right? Because those are the things which actually change lives. Like, for example, if you take the Ukraine-Russia war now, if you manipulate an image just to make it a little bit different, to bring it something else, it can actually be detrimental outcome in the eyes of the public.
So I mean, I think we are probably digressing completely from conceptual photography per se as a subject.
Yeah, that's what I was just asking.
I mean, where you rightly said, one has to be responsible with your genre.
Right.
Right now, if I'm going to shoot maybe, let's say, a mobile phone in such a way, present it to people, which is not. For example, I think I'm irresponsible. Have I enhanced it the way I've shot it, where it is exactly the way it is, but it looks fantastic? I think that's very well in my capability to do so. When you talk about a war, photojournalism for that matter, when you manipulated an image and shown it the way, let's say, for example, I'm doing a tourism campaign for that matter, right? And I have completely changed the skies and which is what you end up seeing in a lot of social media images these days, where you've seen fabulous images of destinations and stuff, and you land there and it's nothing like it, right? Now that's where I would feel I would never do something like that. I feel there is moral responsibility for anybody not to enhance it and sway people to be able to sell a product which actually is not true, which is not real. I mean, that's a question of morality and aesthetic. That's a very different discussion, Bhavya, altogether. I don't think it's connected with photography and things like that. I mean, that is lies within one's own scale of morals.
But is there like a lot of pressure in that respect so I completely understand where you're coming from, and I completely endorse as well what you are saying.
Yeah.
In that respect, because I know there are certain things that you can do, especially in certain genres. But then in that respect as well, like the example that you used, for instance, about a tourism campaign where it's manipulated to that level where it's looking a lot different than what reality is. In general as well, then in commercial and fashion, when we are talking about there is certain expectations that the clients also have. Do they put a lot of pressure in? Because I'm sure the photographer also must have felt that pressure, taking the case an example of that tourism.
Well, yeah, I mean, we end up shooting beauty all the time. We end up shooting hair all the time. I end up shooting a lot of campaigns for some very reputed companies on who are into the FMCG market. And of course, let's say for example, you're shooting hair and nobody's hair looks like the way you see them on commercials. Come on. I mean, that level of flow, that level of that's a creative license that you will take.
Right.
Is it a possibility that the girl's hair can be like that? Yes. Are they extension in it? Yes. Of course. One shouldn't shy away. But the beauty about the time that we live in right now, Bhavya, is that it is not a hidden fact anymore. You see, 20 years back, maybe it was beautiful to see stuff like this because people were unaware. Today, the awareness that people have, thanks to social media, thanks to people, going out there and expressing themselves the way they are. I mean, the social media platforms today, people are so aware that they all know. In fact, photographers are proud to put up behind the scenes videos, right? Where you can really tell that this is what the final image is, but this was nothing like what the behind the scenes show, right? Now, today we are very proud. 20 years back, maybe you never wanted anybody to know how I created this picture. Today, I'm going out there and telling people this is how I did it. Now, that is the beauty of the time we live in today. So, if you're asking me a question whether, that the manipulation in the image, I'm very proudly saying I've manipulated it a bit out there, guys. There's a BTS video of it as well. But at the same time, see what it's been created to. As far as it's in the, moral scale of aesthetic, as I would say it.
Right.
So.
Right. It's very interesting you say that. Actually, it brings a question to my head. What is the level of capability in today? And I want to kind of get into AI a little bit, but before that, what is the level of tools that are available out there today, which can actually, in terms of in the hands of someone like you, can a good picture become a great picture?
Can a good picture become a great picture?
By using post-processing and editing.
So I will tell you my expectation out of a picture is very clear. I've not taken a picture till the time I'm sure what I'm getting into. It has never been an accident. I don't like accidents. I try to arrive at something which I've visualized. Now, after having been shot, I know the limitation I have when I'm shooting it per se, and I've already kept my post in mind. So I know for a fact that this is the amount of post I'm going to do on it to arrive at what my vision to the image is. So everything is worked backwards. In my case, it's never working forward. So I have a complete sketch of an image which I have in mind, which we work on mood boards, which we work on references. My makeup artist has a clear idea what kind of makeup hair I want. My designer and a stylist knows exactly what kind of costumes, what colors, how reflective, what my backgrounds, my set designers know. I mean, I think it's something that I've spoken about in the interview as well, in the magazine. I think there's a very clear process of arriving at what I really want to arrive at. And till the time that entire team is on board, in fact, we do trial runs before on costumes to understand this is exactly coming out in the same space that we have imagined it.
Right.
So for me, it's working backwards. Now, when we come on to set to roll, sometimes the model is not able to express the way, and we work towards making sure that it's going in the direction. We cast models according to what our expectations are, and then we sort of post-produce the image, keeping in mind this is what is supposed to be for post-production. So beyond a certain, it's not about okay, now we have this image. Now how can we? I call that salvaging. When you sort of, this is not working, let's salvage this image. I mean, I don't think that should exist for any photographer. I mean, I think it's a nightmare, and it will always show. But I think if you're slightly clear about what you're doing, then all these tools are out there to help you. I mean, the tools are like a car manual, right? I mean, I don't really see, everything in the manual is out there. All you need to do is just make sure what's going to help you at the end to create what you really want to create.
Right.
But having said that, I mean, even on when I'm post-producing images, other than enhancing something, other than cutting and pasting and creating something, maybe adding a layer, maybe taking a blemish out, I don't really think there is anything more I do
Right.
on Photoshop or anything like that.
Understand. So this it also depends upon the level of creative, not freedom so as to say, but the creative vision that you have, right? Because as you mentioned earlier, that some of it can be achieved actually when you're shooting it, and some of it is just physically not possible, right?
Sure.
Like for example, now image like this, when I see this is from your, of course, profile.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I think that it is not possible to achieve an image like this, all of it in actually shooting it.
Sure.
So how much of that has happened here, or this is like a...
So it's a very interesting image you've picked actually, Bhavya, because this is something that we have shot for a real estate developer.
Right.
Specifically the K-Raja Universal guys. I mean, they have really been fantastic connoisseurs of the kind of work that I've been doing. And every time they come to me, they'll always be like, how can you push this 2 notch forward? So they're really, really great investors in images, so to say. And this was done for a campaign for theirs, which basically was titled as The World to Come.
Okay.
Now, so that was a single line brief, The World to Come, and they said create images on the world to come. So we created a body of about 12 images, which was the world to come. Now, my stretch of imagination at that time were we're going to be living in 150-story towers, where we walk down straight from our helipads into our houses through the parking lots. Now I said, how do I make this look believable in an image? And fashion is very close to me, so I can't imagine taking pictures without a model in there, because I just feel that human element of beauty and the element of femininity, and I think without the element of a model in there,
it adds something to it.
will always, as opposed to it just being plain images of parking lots and helipads and stuff. I think that human element always creates an element of mystery for me in images, for sure. So when they came to me, and this is the image that I was thinking of, that how do I show a helipad? And in Bombay, we do not have helipads where we can actually so easily shoot. And even if we do 1 or 2 helipads that we have, are not exotic enough for the world to come. Because here I'm trying out there to go and show an image of the future, not of what is existing right now. It's the world to come. So when we started working on this, I said, there is no way I can take an existing image of a stock shot of a place and create this. So we got a 3D artist to create a helipad coming down straight into a parking lot. We worked on multiple designs at a sketch level. I got a sketch artist involved to just sketch out. If you see the entire background, I mean, if you see there's an entire helipad, so that's the helipad which you come down from. There's a stairway that you come down. These are parking lots of the pillars. And you see the rest of the development behind is all way below, your skyline. Yeah. So I said, if I create this, so this is one of the designs I picked, and I said, this really is relevant. And red is a color of progress. Red is a color. I said, I want a red car, which now is a human element, as opposed to, because I don't know what the cars in the future are going to look like.
Right.
So if I don't know what the cars in the future are, let's have a model spotting that car, that this is the car that I'm going to spot. So we asked the designer to create a costume, which basically makes the girl look like the car, and as you rightly know, so we've put the wheels out there. So the girl and the outfit is one shot, where we shot it in chroma.
Right.
Obviously, we shot it in a studio. Tried and match the lighting to what the parking lot was. Now, these are smaller details of where your technicalities have to be really right, where if you don't make sure that your images sort of blend in with the right lighting, they end up looking like cutouts. Right. The idea is to make it look surreal, believable to a certain extent.
I understand.
So this is how, as I told you in the past, that there are 3 platforms we worked on. We worked on 3D. This entire set has been created on Maya. We've shot a studio shot, which is a conventional shooting gear that we've done, and we've bought this image together, we've merged it on Photoshop to create what we've actually created. So this is, this is the journey that I enjoy the most. Yeah.
Right. But in terms of like, you said that there is, in the realm of what would you call is moral, and in terms of whatever manipulation that you're doing for an image or whatever, however you're post-processing it, do you think that from a style perspective as well, okay, when we are actually looking at a photo which is being shot, like let's say, of course, I know that you have a specific style, like you mentioned, like you love shooting portraits, and I think it's very clear when you see the pictures that you shoot. Do you think that also translates into the sort of style when you work on images like this, or it's just purely from a perspective of what is the brief or the creative vision for that?
You mean when I'm shooting portraits?
No.
Or
when you're shooting an image, or when you're creating an image or conceptualizing an image like this,
sure,
which requires, of course, small bit to do on the actual shooting,
yeah,
and then most of it is like creating that image and conceptualizing it. So does that style percolate of what you shoot in terms of shoot as well, and what you do in terms of post-processing as well?
Oh yes, of course it does. It has to. I mean, I think it's sort of quite seamless in that sense. So even when we are seeing ordinary things, we're seeing it very differently in that sense. Maybe by way of angle, perspective, light. I mean, I think there is a certain style that sort of over a period of time, when you develop a certain way of seeing things, as I would say, you start seeing things in a certain way. I mean, and that's at a very subconscious level. You're just naturally seeing things very differently. So we often have this thing where, you even when you've gone for a holiday and everybody has the same iPhone and you're taking a picture, and people have come up to me and says, but why is your picture looking so different? And we've all shot it at this from the same place, from the same spot, but your pictures end up looking slightly different from what the others are seeing. It's just purely because how you're seeing it. So
right.
That happens at a very subconscious level. I mean, even when you're directing the models to sort of act in a certain way, I mean, your directions to them come from that style of the images that you want to achieve.
But is it possible to translate that style onto a created image? Because at the end of the day, you
already created image?
No, one that you are going to create or you're working on.
Yeah.
So is it possible to translate that style onto an image which is going to be created or manipulated?
Totally, I think. No, I mean, I think because that's what you're working towards, Bhavya. You are totally working, because you're till the time you achieve that, you're not happy with. You keep trying to achieve what you really want to eventually once post produced and once enhanced,
right,
is going to look like. So there may be a great emotion that you've captured, but it doesn't necessarily meet your vision. So let's say out of 100 frames that I've shot, there are many usable, beautiful images, but there is only one that takes your attention and says, this is what is suiting my style best.
Got it.
I think that's a process of, sort of, until the time you've got that, I don't really think. So if you ask about that style percolating to, fitting into your post-production, I think that's totally how it works.
Possible, is
yeah.
It? And is it possible to replicate that style onto, like, say, for example, if I see 10 images which are what you call shot created by you. I mean, shot is like, let's leave shot out of it. I'm saying, say, if I see 10 images that are created like these, then not of the same series. I'm saying 10 different campaigns, 10 different series. Then is it possible to replicate that style into like probably creating a pipeline so that you are able to do a lot more productively?
Yeah, I mean, I would ask myself, why would I want to repeat it in the first place? I mean, I don't really think I enjoy repeating similar processes unless and until I'm working on a book of a certain kind, where that consistency of that particular style is very important for that entire book, for that matter. Then I try and bring in the same style, communicate it to the other people. It's like, let's say when Richard Avedon was creating that book on the mill workers, for example, or the mine workers. I forgot what it's called. And if you see that style of black and white imaging shot on 4x5 are Exactly. They all look into camera, dead front, not doing anything, expressionless, and, it speaks a lot about their journey and Abaddon's journey with them. So if you see that consistency he's intended that inconsistency in all the images that he shot. Is more than 200, 300 images of these workers and portrait style. So that becomes, but that's a process of, that's his way of communicating to people, and
That
he's
also
adapted
became
that
his
style.
signature style.
Yeah, he's the guy who introduced motion, for that matter, in images. For him to be able to do such stillness was actually surprising for me at that time. But you see, that's what he wanted in that. That's really, really what he wanted in those images for that particular book. So he didn't change the style throughout the book. The lighting is the same, the background is the same. It's just one white backdrop against which all of them are mostly in used rugged denims. That became a language. And I think eventually what we want to communicate, what we use is language. Now, whether it's a visual language, whether it's what you write, whatever your art and craft form is, but I think eventually it boils down to language.
Do you think creating that language, if you were him today, is much more easier? Like, for example, if you were Richard Avedon now, today, okay, and if you wanted to commission or do something which is similar in the exact same manner that time, it'd be a lot easier to do today because of all the technology that you have at hand.
But the particular reference we are talking about is actually very simple style of work.
Right.
I don't really think one takes, but to achieve that simplicity is very difficult. So if you ask me, that is what he really wanted to do with his style of work. Whether me as an artist want to do that is yes, it is easier to achieve everything today than what it was 30 years back. I think technology only helps you get better, right? I don't think we are moving backwards in any sense.
Right.
So anything is easier today. But I think for an artist, what is more important, I think the more relevant question is to be able to create that language in the first place to communicate your personal style of work, your personal vision, or when you call yourself the author of that image, it's really what you want to say with that. I think that's where the important question lies. It's not about replicating somebody's style, or it's not replicating what somebody's already done.
But what comes to get defined as one's style? See, I know, like, as you know, that I'm also a creative person, I'm trying to understand what you call the process, and this is something which has kind of puzzled me since a long time. The reason is because there is only that 1% which possibly might be different, and that could be what you call something special about that image. And does that over a period of time come to get defined as one's style?
Most popular works, for that matter, how they get popular is because people have noticed something different about that piece of work. I think people have admired, whether it's in terms of style, whether it's in terms of the tools that they've used, or whatever the medium is. But I feel that people have liked somebody's work over a period of time. Let's say whether it's an M.F. Hussain painting. They're brush strokes at the end of the day. You see, if you see his past film work versus his abstract work in the time, or for that matter, Picasso, from what he started with to his cubism. There is definitely something that people have seen which has moved them, which is connected with them. Now, that connection, I feel, is what style is. I feel that when people feel connected to that, what that person is trying to say, I don't think there's a very conscious effort that artist has ever had in creating that style. I never intend to work on this style of work. I think that's a labeling. That's something that we just use because it's easier for two people's communication ki ye uska style hai. I think this is his style of work. That's never the case when actually you're trying to create images. You're trying to create images. You're not trying to create a style. You understand? So I don't really see that as and over a period of time, when you do consistently that kind of work, it creates what you actually say is a signature style of work.
Right.
Because now you see an image and say this is his signature style. But I don't think words like style and all actually appear in our books, because when we are approaching images, style is the last thing in our heads. So
Understand. I think they just become organic, right? It just probably happens in the process, and
yeah, I mean,
then you're able to. I think a viewer is able to identify it much faster than probably the creator.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you said it. Yeah.
Very interesting about AI, and I actually wanted to talk from a perspective of both global as well as India. Because we were talking as well offline about where the industry is abroad and probably where India is today. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I mean, if you want to talk about AI, we'll need like 100 episodes now because
We have time.
because it's endless, right? I
Right.
mean, I think it's so evolving, Bhavya, right now at this stage. I mean, I think we've created something. I mean, and even if you go by some of the best people who I follow in terms of whether it's people like Mustafa or whether it's these guys who really Sam Altman for that matter, people who've created OpenAI and ChatGPT, and at the rate that it is actually evolving, I mean, I think we've created something that we can't imagine what it is. We've not even scratched the surface of what AI is and can be. They say that the other day I was just reading an article on how the current ChatGPT 4 or wherever we are is IQ is 160, which is Einstein's IQ. And if they end up creating, evolving rather, in another 2-3 years, if it has an IQ of 1600 for that matter, do you even imagine what its possibilities are? I don't think AI now is about what AI can do for you. It's about actually assigning AI to think for you.
Right.
So the possibilities, I mean, me as a photographer cannot even fathom what it will do to my image making industry. Because just at what I'm imagining and the whole process of me trying to arrive to an image today, the time that it's taking, to arrive at that image, what my vision is possible just on my prompt words. So can you even imagine the possibilities of what AI, and it's already happening, right? I mean, internationally, most of the brands have already started using AI for their campaigns. Even in India, so many of these clients have started using AI for that, and it's available to anybody. I mean, you can pick up a few prompt words and be happy. I mean, I think they've blurred the lines of the so-called dictated creative boundaries,
Right.
so to say. I mean,
But do you think and again, this could probably be a far-reaching question, but I know the reason I ask you is because I know you'll give me a very honest answer.
yeah, sure.
Do you think that in India, photographers, when it comes to AI and especially in these industries and genre, are living in denial?
I don't know about because I'm not in personal interaction with a lot of photographers
No,
per
in general,
se.
from a
But
general
I personally
perspective.
feel there is a general denial from probably a lot of my contemporaries to the way I see the attitude of people generally towards AI, that they want to live in a denial. Arey, ye to, it is just something that is, but it is not going to, how is it going to affect me? Is generally the idea. I mean, I'm doing this, AI is meant for something else. AI is meant for everything. It's going to change the way your lives are already, in that sense. So yeah, I mean, as you said, I mean, I think people are still on denial, and I think there needs to be a wake up call in terms of saying that, if it's a part of you now. I mean, the conversation we are having right now is probably already heard by a mobile phone next to you. How do you know that? How do you know? I mean, it's already processing the information. I mean, if you've seen series like Snowden and stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, your camera is in every room. I mean, there's your laptop's watching you, your phone's hearing you. I mean, there is no such thing. So it's become so democratized, for that extent that like earlier, I remember 30 years back, you had an edge because you could handle a camera. Nobody knew how to load a film, till it came to a point of digitization where nobody knew how to use that software.
Right.
till it came to a point where anybody can take a picture on a phone and it's probably better than what you've shot on your professional cameras, because you've got an angle which your camera and your tripod took a long time to get into. To your prompt towards creating images. I mean, see the journey that we've had and how can we be in denial, is what my point is. So I think it's an important tool and an accessory right now right now I'm using the word tool. Actually, it's not a tool. I don't really see AI as a tool anymore. Like, I can understand all your past softwares, it's going to make them look primitive for that matter. Your post-production softwares are going to be very primitive in that sense. AI is going to generate. I mean, we are getting into generative AI, so to say. It's going to generate things. It's writing its own codes for all you know. So, I mean,
but then tools like Photoshop and of course the sort of options that they give, like generative fill and all of these things today. What are your thoughts on stuff like
anything
that?
that helps you achieve what you're out there to do. I feel that.
Okay.
Anything that helps you, whether is you do it through, there are going to be probably 100 different kind of software companies providing different kind of, it's like, how fast do you want to go? You'll buy your car, whether you want an 1800cc car, whether you want to drive at 200 kilometers an hour, if you're in some part of Europe or US, and you want a 3000cc car or 5000cc car, or you're happy with driving an 800cc car in the city limits because you don't, all are available. It's where do you want to go, and how do you want to drive it is what's going to be important. So everything is available right now. It's about, people have to know where they want to reach. So with image making, I think that's the process. I mean, I feel more stories need to be told, and there are endless amount of stories that people have that they can do, and you use any tool that's possible and available today. So I don't think it's confined to a particular, like 30 years back, I can understand that if I want to communicate my story with a visual, camera is my tool. Painting. Same way today, I can use probably 10 more other tools to tell my story. As far as you have a story.
Yeah.
So,
genre wise, what do you think is going to be redundant? Like, let me just throw it out there, like wedding photography. Do you think AI will make it redundant?
Absolutely not, right? I think wedding photography can never become redundant. I mean, I think people who do wedding photography are the ones who capture emotions of real people. Anybody who's getting married wants to see themselves, not an AI version of themselves, right? I mean, they go into destination weddings and try and capture emotion, love, everything that they have about each other for a journey that they're going to start. And they would invest everything into capturing real life emotions through wedding photographers. So that's not something AI can replace, right? I mean, that's something out of the question. I think commercial needs, for example, are only going to be, because technology is going to provide them to the companies at much cheaper rates, obviously. And what I just explained in my past conversation with you, that it is so much easier, to just imagine when we used to do film, the whole idea of shooting a film, going it for processing at a lab, coming back, you editing and then scanning the image. You see the process of time, money, the material involved. Everything about it changed because of digital. Was like you saw it on your laptop, you had it. I mean, it's just the convenience it gave you, right?
Got it.
This is what I call as evolution. So redundancy is going to come in areas only where you know for a fact that this is irreplaceable. Fine art photography is going to be irreplaceable, irrespective of the medium. How you've created that image is not going to be a question asked for those image makers in time to come. So redundancy is going to be only in people who are doing stuff for online stores, where we're doing very, very tactical work, where there is no craft involved, where there is no thinking involved, where there is no concept involved, and photographers who are doing that kind of work, their work is going to get redundant for sure. Because
but is that happening already in internationally and
India? Yes, it is. Yes, so a lot of people, a lot of photographers rather, who dependent on doing a lot of product work for companies and doing, as you say, catalog work for people. I mean, I think that they sort of have to look at alternative means of, doing, at least finding commercial sort of application to their work. They'll have to rethink about finding a commercial application. It's like what happened to a studio artist who could paint. I mean, if a software could provide something, I mean, and the studio artist has got no job left. Yeah.
What is the level of applicability or the percentage of penetration that's happening in India today?
It's happening very fast, Bhavya. I mean, people don't wake up. I think it's going to be too late. I feel the penetration's already started. Having said that, I'm already working on a project on AI right now, for a client of mine, because I mean, I think it's just the more sensible thing to do at this point of time. So it's happening at a very fast pace, and the next 5 years are going to be very interesting, I feel. And I don't really say it's only for photography, but I think across mediums, I mean, across art forms, as I would say it, whether it's music, whether it's art, photography, everything. I mean, I think we are going through an amazing time, and if we don't keep ourselves upgraded and updated with the way technology is changing and shaping ourselves, I mean, I think we are going to 5 years later wake up and say, oh, did I miss the bus? So I think it's time to wake up and just sort of upgrade yourself.
But do you think that there is also a divide in that respect, that what is, because in many ways, many platforms, authenticity is also something which is kind of making a comeback, or at least you get to hear those words or conversations. So from that perspective, do you think that there's a divide in that respect?
So authenticity is a very large word to actually fit into the conversation that we are having. I mean, it's subjective, so to say, right? When you talk about authenticity, it's authenticity about what?
Pictures, of course.
So which we discussed, right? I mean, when you're doing photojournalism, there is a certain amount of aesthetic that you need to.
From a perspective, even in genre that like fashion, commercial, and so on as well, because naturally you can do so much with a lot of these tools. Then there is a certain crop. It's very much like how film and digital is, where there's like you can see a certain movement, so as to say, very minuscule even today, where people are still now heading back to film. In many ways. So I'm saying from that perspective, in terms of like authenticity.
Yeah, but I don't think they're moving on to film for the reason of authenticity, I feel. I think they're moving into the film because they want to achieve the final product for it to look as if there is no manipulation whatsoever. I mean, and there is beauty in that as well.
But that's authenticity, isn't it?
I don't really think it's authenticity. Again, it comes down to, you may if you put 10 people in a room and you show an image to somebody, it comes down to whether you love the image or you don't like the image. You love the image because of the story it has to sell or not, right? There you're not asking questions. I purely come from storytelling as a process,
right.
Irrespective of the tool. There are certain people who love in the same room, who love the idea of saying this is shot on film. I love it. It's real. It's natural, because that's the genre they like. It's literally whether you are a lover of techno music or whether you're a lover of old classics, for that matter, in that sense. I mean, they both are great musics. It just depends on what genre you really like. So it's quite a debatable thing, but you cannot actually impose the question of authenticity from a photographer's perspective in that sense, because there'll always be that big divide of what is authentic and not is not for. It's only, as you say, when beauty is in the eye of the beholder, it's like what you really want to see, what you really are seeking. Why should I go out and tell somebody, I mean, for that matter, that listen, I have not done anything on this image, for that matter. Maybe that person is not interested, for all he's not interested to know. He's interested to know whether this picture has a story or not, irrespective of the form. In some cases, photographers who want to move into film and stuff like that, they really want to tell that story, to say that this is why you should appreciate this image. So maybe that image is not as moving to somebody like me as well, but it is sort of real and natural and unmanipulated for that sense. So it's captured in time. So it will be relevant in a lot of genres for that respect. But I mean,
but do you think then a manipulated image is able to evoke that emotion or connect, or story for that matter?
So what you are actually coming to is whether it's literally basically discussing two kind of films, right? Whether you're talking about Avengers from Marvel, or you're talking about a Francis
Classic.
Coppola, or a classic
Classic.
like, oh listen, this is shot on, or when you're talking about an Oppenheimer for that matter, which is shot from a certain 70 approach of no manipulation whatsoever. Are they both great films? I think they both are. I enjoy Avengers as much as I loved Oppenheimer, right? I mean, they come from a very different school of thought. They both are absolutely appreciable. I love the craft that has gone into both the filmmaking. The beauty about both is they both were believers of how they approach the subject of communicating what they really want to communicate out there. So it doesn't really matter. Would Oppenheimer would have looked different if it was actually shot through manipulation and technology? Big question. Could he? Yes, it was a great film. It could have worked beautifully even otherwise. Who's to say? Does it add that I've only done it through a classic way of not manipulating any image, and we did that whole explosion in real time and captured it in real time and stuff like that? It's a story I want to tell. Maybe in years to come, that's the story I want to tell people, that in the time of technology, I created something which there was no manipulation of. So it depends on what you want to add to your stories, and stuff. But the story doesn't change. Avengers is still doing Avengers, and Oppenheimer still narrated a fantastic story.
Since you talk about films, how about like 5 films that a photography student must watch?
What are the 5 films? Oh, I'm a complete movie buff, Bhavya. I mean, for me to actually tell you, it's very, very difficult, because I do consume a lot of visual data in that sense. But I don't randomly surf. I try and look for the right things. Like last night I was watching Mary, for all you know. I mean, with Anthony Hopkins and that new girl.
Yeah.
And I love the way that
story of
Mary. But I mean, I think for the kind of work that I really like, I mean, I love Dune 2, for that matter. I mean, I think right from sound to visualization to conceptualization to everything, I would recommend everybody to watch Tarsem Singh's Cell. The Cell with Jennifer Lopez. Okay. I mean, it's an old film.
Oh, okay.
The Cell.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a classic. It's what they've managed to create. The Matrix is one of the films that I've moved and completely moved. You pick up any of the Christopher Nolan films, for that matter, whether it's Inception or whether it's whatever. I mean, I think there are filmmakers whose work is a must-do. From what really stimulates me from works of people are films like these, because they bring something so beautiful on the visual medium. And at the same time, when it comes to storytelling, I mean, I think, Godfather, for example, although, there may be numerous number of examples, but that's one film that you can keep watching and you see the detail that's gone into making that film. Again, from costume to, I mean, there's nothing surreal about that film, but the simplicity in the way that a story of a mafia don is being told. My God, I mean, what thinking? I mean, that guy is like nailed it in there. So there are a certain thing, and you've got to approach it through what you're watching the film for. Like when your first round of watching that film is just pure entertainment. But when you get into the details, I like to get into layers of what made somebody shoot that scene, for that matter. What does it entail? How it's shot. So these are some of the films which are, according to me, revolutionized how...
I'm assuming when you say Godfather, you mean only the first part.
Sorry? Only the first. Yeah. Ideally, yeah. Not the trilogy,
I
of
thought
course.
2 was still okay. I thought 3 was just
outreach.
I think
The first one. For that matter, I mean, most of these
classics,
trilogies, I think the first part has always been something which is,
It's interesting you say about visualization. Can you tell me, like, internationally, at what level is this visualization happening when it comes to AI and using it in commercial photography? I mean, if it's product photography and all of these things, is it like completely redundant and it's AI which is like taking over where the images are being created to make it faster?
No, so a lot of commercial work, especially on product and all, is happening on AI. So that started happening actually even before AI came into existence when it came to automobile photography. So a lot of automobile photographers internationally sort of they couldn't do as much projects as they used to do earlier. It's because the whole cars were made on 3D. So as I mean, most automobile photography was done on 3D. I don't think they really shot cars for that matter. And now you have AI, so I mean, they are most probably going to even not use 3D as a technology or Maya as a technology to do. I mean, I think the your mid journey is of the Lord, and they are going to design. I mean, just yesterday I got to know there are these softwares like for example, like say people like you and me have no idea on how to make apps, right? Like if you had to make an app about something, I don't think you have the know-how to. But today there is this Pythagoras or something is what I heard, is where they have trained AI to basically help you make an app. So all your prompt words can just make an app as far as you have the vision. So do you imagine which way we are heading, like the power that an individual has today as far as they have an idea and the assistance that AI can give you to create no matter what you want. So I mean, I think that's what the future holds for us right now. So I feel that internationally also a lot of companies have started for their product using AI wherever it's relevant. Some companies are very, very clear about how they want it through whatever medium allows them to give the results that they want, which is going to be prevalent in India as well.
But then do you mean that in situations and scenarios like this, especially like say for example internationally now, the requirement would then be for someone more who's visionary in terms of being able to create that image rather than shoot it?
Precisely the point, right? Precisely the point. I think, if you are in the commercial market and want to cater and service to the commercial market, you will have to understand what is the edge you have to be able to cater to that. At the end of the day, commercial photography is a need. It's a service that you'll have to give. People are coming to you because yesterday they came to you because you could use the camera. Today, what are they going to come to you for? I mean, if you've cracked that, like some people would love the way I see fashion for that matter. Like I see designers' collections differently. They would still continue to come to me because I see them differently. So it's very important why you give people a reason to come to you for. And I mean, these are the people who are never going to go out of fashion, irrespective of technologies.
So you mean like a photographer, if he upscales to understanding technology much better, then the dual knowledge that they'll have, possibly of the technicality of actually being able to shoot or coming from where they are to
precisely, Bhavya, because I mean, if I stuck to doing still shooting on E6 and C41 and my triaxis of the lot, no client wanted to spend that kind of money on 100 rolls of film. I had to adapt myself to learning how a digital camera works and a software along with it works. I come from analog time. I had to learn the technology of today to be able to service the commercial market, who helped me produce the images that I really wanted to produce. So if I don't upgrade myself to that, it's going to be impossible for me to be relevant to the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to understand how much of that upgradation can one do as well. The reason is because, from analog to digital was still probably like, a baby shark moving to a shark. But from digital to like kind of AI, it's, I think, ocean versus a pond.
But I feel also that these are the lessons we learned that time. Like I was probably one of the last photographers to turn digital. I insisted clients to keep shooting film because I was so comfortable in that skin. I mean, I was most comfortable with taking that one picture, and I boasted for the longest time about saying, this is one picture, it's unmanipulated, there's no Photoshop to it, there's nothing, this is where the skill lies and things like that, till it comes to a point where there are no takers for that I mean it, and somebody fed good ideas saying that eventually what is your journey? It's about creating images, and we learned that it is important to keep learning, and that's what keeps us alive. I mean, I'm not refusing to stop learning. I want to learn, like as I said, I'm a student today. I want to learn everything about what there is to AI or what it can help. Whether I choose to use that medium or not is irrelevant, but I'm definitely going to learn it.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Jatin. I think
It's been a pleasure, Bhavya.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you for
was
having
really
me
good.
here. I mean, I think we had a wonderful conversation. I think some thoughts which probably I've not discussed with anyone, it just, you sort of helped me, create a narrative to what our visions are for the industry. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. It was really good fun.
Pleasure.